Hello everyone and welcome to a brand new series where we will be covering the entire history of the Sea of Thieves right from the very beginning all the way to the current events happening today. So without any further delay, let's begin our first lesson on the Ancient Era. The Devil's Shroud is an anomaly that cannot be explained. No one understands why or how it came to be. This wall of fog circles the entirety of the Sea of Thieves, barricading it from the outside world and sealing away those within. The Shroud came to be long before the Ancients, and it doesn't appear to be going anywhere anytime soon. This fog ebbs and flows, bending, moving, and twisting with no apparent pattern. This movement is extremely dangerous and unpredictable, and has been documented to swallow entire regions at a moment's notice, or reveal entire new sections of the map. Beacons are present in crucial areas dictated by the Ancients, and are used for warding off the Shroud in efforts to protect their homes and places of worship alike. The Ancients crafted numerous other relics to aid them in passage through the Shroud, and one of the most infamous of these is the Shroud Breaker. And at this point, you might be wondering, well, who even are the Ancients? Not too much is known about them, but we do know that the Ancients are the native inhabitants of the Sea of Thieves. It's unknown whether the Ancients had a name for themselves, or if they were even one united people. During the time of their reign, the region was not known as the Sea of Thieves. Their civilization was lost long ago, although evidence of their existence is littered across the sea. Artifacts, paintings, pottery, and religious sites are only a few of the countless other objects and locations left behind. The tribes built altars and constructed temples and places of religious importance to them. The Ancients were advanced and skilled. They were extremely intelligent, they charted the stars, became skilled sailors, and even managed to master the magic within the Sea of Thieves. For example, how they managed to craft the Shroud Breaker, or how they used things like Kraken ink to see into the future. It's also currently believed that they had a currency, which is the ancient coins that we trade today in the Pirate Emporium. They embraced life on the seas, and in return, the sea embraced them. Much like any other civilization, they also had social classes. According to the statues on the shores of Gold, there were at least 10 significant figures in their society. Two of the most important Ancients in history are the High Priest and the Warrior, but we'll go into more detail on those two later. Because Ancients were so in tune with nature, certain animals became sacred to them, which inspired their religion. Many of their priests have masks that represent these creatures, which also inspired their many constellations. By the way, I'll be uploading shorts of each constellation and the story behind them, so keep an eye out for those if you're interested. Finally, the Ancients managed to coexist and create a flourishing relationship with the Merfolk. They assisted one another and ensured that the balance of the Sea of Thieves was kept at all times. The Merfolk would also search the depths of the oceans and return with many gems and jewels as a gift to the Ancients, which they use in their many relics. Because the Merfolk speak a different language, known as their song, the Ancients crafted magical earrings to translate and comprehend their song in order to communicate back. Now, the Merfolk have a monarchy that oversees a large kingdom, effectively ruling the entirety of the underseas. The Merfolk maintain relations with all of the undersea creatures that we know of, but most notably, the Old Mother. The Old Mother was the largest kraken to have ever existed, and she birthed all the other krakens that we know today. She had ties to the Sea Queen, the ruler of the Merfolk. At some point though, the Sea Queen broke a promise that these two had made. In retaliation, the Old Mother began to wreak havoc on the kingdom, and every century or so, she would wake from her slumber and feast on Merfolk. All things considered, this basically sums up life in the early Sea of Thieves. So with all of that out of the way, we'll dive into some of the most significant events during this period of time, beginning with the attempt to join the worlds together. Long ago, an ancient priest sought out to reconnect the Sea of Thieves and the Sea of the Damned. The reasoning for this is not known, but the priest, using the Veil of the Ancients, gathered followers and began the ritual. This very ritual is depicted in the Legend of the Veil Voyage, and the outcome of his actions are unknown. At the end of the ritual, the priest recognizes that this was a major mistake, and says,
"We must have balance, a world of the living and a world of the dead.
As a result, the ancients decided to destroy the veil by feeding it to the shrouded ghost and scattering the veil stones across the ocean in the hopes that this power could never fall into the wrong hands, effectively burying the incident. A warrior of the ancients found himself falling deeply in love with the Sea Queen, and she fell for him too. Neither one of them could imagine life without the other, and they began a quest to bridge the gap between their two worlds so they could be together once and for all. The warrior, willing to do anything by her side, attempted to harness some of the most powerful forces in the Sea of Thieves. The ancients discovered this forbidden love and sought out to stop them at all costs, out of fear that this would upset the balance in the world and would have devastating repercussions. To put a stop to it, the ancient king summoned the high priest and ordered him to put an end to the nonsense. The high priest created a potion that would mimic the song of the Sea Queen, luring the warrior to a cliff. Here, the high priest attempted to poison the warrior, but he was too strong and ended up flinging the high priest off of a cliff and continued on his quest. The Sea Queen, on the other hand, collected magical stones that the Merfolk possessed, commonly referred to as mermaid gems. Using these, she successfully transformed the ancient warrior into a merfolk, but at a devastating cost. Upon the transformation, a terrible curse was unleashed, robbing the Sea Queen of her song and infecting many of the merfolk, having the ability to spread by even a single scratch. This was known as the Whispering Plague. Many of the Sea Queen's people became infected and were forced into exile. This branch of merfolk became known as the Sirens, and their song is one of sorrow and loss. The merfolk song is their soul and their collective memory, and without it, they're essentially locked in torment, a soulless killing machine. The Sirens, under instruction from their new Siren Queen, began collecting humans and trapping them with their mermaid statues, which can be found littered around islands. These statues hold their prisoners captive, while a mermaid gem in the center transforms them into an ocean crawler to become one of her soldiers. The color of the gem used dictates what ocean crawler they will become. At this point, the world was in utter chaos. The balance of life had been thrown off entirely. Sirens were causing complete destruction to the Sea Kingdom, curses were running rampant, and an angry kraken was terrorizing the ocean. Life was never going to be the same. After these catastrophic events, the ancients and the merfolk decided enough was enough, and they began their attempt to return the balance to the Sea of Thieves, once and for all. So that wraps up today's history lesson. Up next is the Ancient Era Part 2, which will be the final part in this era and will continue into the next one. Thank you for making it this far if you have, and I will catch you all in the next video. See ya.